Hello, welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of the We Don't Talk About Uno podcast, the podcast where we talk about Disney Lorcana's trading card game. I'm here with my co-host, the Kronk to my Cuzco. It's David.
Hi, Simeon.
Hello, how are we doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm happy to be starting season 2.
So I just wanted to say a little bit about why we're starting a new season and what it is we're doing. We spent the last year speculating and talking around the game of Lorcana. We've had a lot of fun. We've played a lot of silly games. We've done an awful lot of talking about stuff we don't really know about. It's been a lot of fun. However, just 2 days ago, the game launched.
The game's here. Lorcana's here. I'm really excited.
We have the cards.
Yeah.
We know the rules.
Yeah.
We know most of the rules.
Yeah.
and we're playing the game. So now is a good time to get stuck into this podcast. This is the best episode to start with.
Yeah.
If you really like us and you then want to go back and listen to the other episodes,
Yeah.
I mean, feel free. But right now, this is the best place to be.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I also just wanted to say that We Don't Talk About Uno is sponsored by you. At the moment, we're not looking to run a Patreon. We're not looking to make any money off of this, but we are trying to grow our audience. So if you enjoy our podcast and want to support us, please tell your gaming friends, post about us online. You can review the podcast in your app of choice. You can click all of the like and subscribe buttons wherever you are. You know it helps us, so please do all of those things. And help us grow our audience. What are we talking about today, David?
Not Uno.
No, definitely not Uno.
No, we are talking about our experience of going to some launch events for Lorcana.
Amazing.
We are on day 3 of Lorcana, I would say. So Lorcana came out on the Friday, and we're recording this on Sunday. So on Friday, we got some Lorcana cards, and on Saturday, we played with some Lorcana cards. So we're talking about both of those things.
Amazing. Later on in the episode, we are also going to have some rules clarifications. There were lots of questions at the tournament we played at on Saturday. I've gone online, I've found out the answers to those questions, and I've also got sources for those answers in case people then say, no, that's not how it is. And later on, the child is going to review
We
the
have
starter.
a co-host who is the child,
Yeah, if you haven't heard us before, we have a co-host, a third person. He's a lot of fun. I enjoy him. Great. Okay, so tell us about Friday. What happened Friday? That was the launch.
I think we also have a guest this week who goes by the pseudonym Moana. So maybe we can listen to a little bit of audio with Moana that can tell us a little bit about what happened on Friday.
Oh, okay. Let's do that.
It is the 18th of August, which means it's the first day we can buy Lorcana in the UK. We are really excited about this. I have a special guest with me today called Moana. Hi, Moana.
Hi, I'm Moana.
Hi, Moana. And you had a question for me when I told you the name of the podcast. What did you ask me the question was? You said, why? What did you say, why what?
Why did you say Uno?
What's it meant to be then?
Bruno.
It's meant to be Bruno, and I said Uno. I see. Yeah, that's quite a good question. So, we're about to get in the car, aren't we? And go to the game shop. We're going to need, hopefully, there won't be too much of a queue at the game shop. We're going to wait outside for a little bit, because we need to get there early, because everyone wants the game. And then we'll meet Simeon there. And today, we're going now. And
I thought you were going on Saturday.
we are going tomorrow too on Saturday. We're going both times. Yeah. And we'll see if we can get some cards. Should we go?
Yeah.
Let's get in the car and go. So Moana, which starter deck do you think you're going to buy today? Which deck do you want?
Moana and Mickey.
And we're now with Child and Simeon as well. Child, which one would you like?
Cruella and Aladdin.
Or Cruella and Aladdin. And Simeon, what are you thinking?
I'll get whatever's left.
Whatever's left. Sounds. Unless the 6 people in front of us are buying all the stock, I think we'll get something. I'm going to get... I don't actually know. Simba and Aurora? Has no one else said that yet?
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, Simba. I'm going to get Simba and Aurora. So why do you want Cruella, Child? What interests you about Cruella and Aladdin?
They're cool.
They're cool, and I know you like the green cards as well, don't you? Or you sent me a deck which was really cool, and it had a lot of green cards in.
Yeah.
And why Moana? Why do you want the Moana deck? Is it because it's got the same name as you?
No.
No, why then?
Because I like the yellow.
You like yellow. Oh yeah, we've looked at the cards and you really like the yellow ones, don't you? Yeah, we'll have lots of yellow in there.
So I'm just going to say it. I thought I was going to spend all weekend recording different things. I thought I was going to record with people at the game shop on the Friday. I thought I'd record with people at the tournament on the Saturday. I thought I'd record in the car. I thought I'd record other stuff.
I thought the same.
I didn't record any more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't happen. Never mind.
I think there was a lot of waiting and queuing.
It really was.
So
yeah.
we left on the Saturday especially. Well, let's talk about the Friday first, because I was like, Simeon, Sam at the game shop has said we need to, there's lots of interest. We need to get there early.
You see, okay, I just need to say, in case Sam listens to this,
Yeah.
I need to say, if I had clocked that the information was from Sam, I would have been like, yes, Sam, we need to be early, definitely, because I do everything that Sam says.
Okay. You're right.
However,
Yeah, I didn't say it.
I was
did
like,
at some point tell you.
oh
it was
yeah,
in
you
Sam.
probably did
and
tell
at
me.
that point, you were like, okay, we will go early.
Yeah, I wasn't listening, but I was like, yeah, sure. If you want to go early, we can go early. Yeah, I turned up at 9:20.
40 minutes before opening time.
40 minutes before opening time, which was at, if you know your maths, that would be 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were already 6 people in front of me. And then very soon after, somebody else joined behind me. And then you turned up at about, what was that, 25 past?
Yeah, a little bit. I'd said 1:30, or was it by 1:30?
Yeah, it was before 1:30 you'd said. And you were just behind them. And then at some point we got the child to count. And before the store opened, there were around 20 people queuing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure all of them
I don't think they all got stuff. No,
No.
I don't think they did. They all had the chance to get booster packs, but
Yeah.
I don't think they got other stuff other than boosters.
Yeah, they definitely sold out. By the time I got there, so I was the 7th person, they had already sold out of everything other than starter decks, the boosters, individual boosters, which they were limiting to 6 per person, which I thought was a really nice way of doing it to support a community. Mm-hmm. That's enough for anybody who wants to open.
Boosters are like when you buy the little packets, they're like in crinkly wrapping that feels really nice, and you open them up and you get 12 random
random cards. Yeah. But they had already run out of the Trove, which is like a box of 8 of
boosters,
those, and in a nice box, in a fancy box.
With some deck boxes as well, that you can keep your cards inside.
You know, I don't think much of those deck boxes. With some flimsy cardboard rubbish.
I think they're amazing, but yeah.
Yeah. So they'd already run out of that. There was one
gift set
there was one
by
gift
the
set
time you
left,
got there, yeah.
and
the person behind you
the
really
person
wants
behind
it.
me really wanted it, and I was like, you know what? I'm sure I'll be able to pick that up online later. It's fine, go for it. So she got that. I got starter decks and booster packs.
Nice, same. I got starter decks and booster packs.
Now I need to.
We were only allowed one starter deck per person, so you got one for you and one for child, and I got one for me and one for Moana. So at that point, we have 4 starter decks between us. And then you were like, I thought I'd be out of here in half an hour.
Yeah.
I've only got an hour's parking. I need to run. And it, for various reasons, it had taken longer than
You can.
get to
You
the
can
front
park
of the queue.
right outside the game shop for an hour for free, and I just did that and thought, well, that'll be fine. Also, I needed to actually do some work on the Friday, so it turned out absolutely fine. I picked up the stuff, got back to the car, didn't have a ticket, and great.
Yep.
How much did you pay for the starter decks and for?
I'm going to look. I've got it here. It's got pricing on it. My starter deck was £16.20.
Lovely. So below recommended retail price.
I think it is. I think recommended retail is either 16 or 18 in the UK. I think it's 16.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much at the recommended retail price with a tiny little bit of inflation on top. 20p?
I don't know. No. Yeah, definitely. And that was is exactly the same. The booster packs, the randomized packs were a £5 each, which is the recommended retail price as well.
Fiver being £5, £5 British.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we've got a lot of Americans who listen to this. A fiver is like, what do Americans call a fiver?
A $5 bill.
Is that what they do? Is that they've not? You know what? Us Brits, we will go to any length to say shorter words.
Yeah.
There we are. A fiver. So a lot of places have been, or we've seen online, A lot of places have been selling these at way above recommended retail prices. And also, people have been buying them at those inflated prices.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do with their money.
There was a lot of excitement in the early launch, wasn't there? So if people want to listen to our back catalogue, listen to episode 3 of season 1, which is about what was then called the $200 Mickey card, which is currently selling for $1,000 plus, and it was crazy that it was selling for $200 even back then because it was a free card that was given away.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of excitement. I think for me, I'm not jumping on that hype train. I've not sleeved my cards. I'm not that worried about them. It's a game. I want to play it. The ones from the D23 Expo back then were a limited release. There's only ever going to be a really limited supply in the world, whereas what's being printed now, Ravensburger have been really clear. They're just going to keep printing it. So I don't think it's going to accrue massive value, to be honest.
In fact, earlier this week, the CEO of Ravensburger North America jumped on an interview with a website called comicbook.com.
Yeah.
They published the interview, and it basically said, we're doing everything we can to print as much of this and make it as accessible as possible. The kind of the overarching theme of the article was pretty much, we're trying to get this out there. There will be product available. There will be product available. So if it's worth it to you to have it now and you see it at an overinflated price, go for it if that's worth it to you. However, I would say to anybody
listening,
listening,
worth it to me. I paid over retail price for an Illuminous Trove and a gift set.
Oh, okay.
They're coming in the post. I haven't got them yet. But that felt worth it to me. Not a lot over the recommended price, but a little bit over. And I was like, to me, it's worth it to have it a few weeks earlier than other people will get it because I have a podcast about it and I want it.
Whereas I've got booster packs and I've bought 4-star decks and I've bought playmats and stuff.
Yeah.
And all of that I've managed to get at recommended retail price.
Yeah. I ordered playmats at retail price, But I think if anything could become more valuable in the future, it's likely to be things like the playmats there may only be a limited print run of.
I don't know. Those looking at other card games like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, early paraphernalia does sell, but it doesn't accrue
a lot of value.
It doesn't accrue the same value that
as early cards.
that the cards do.
Yeah.
Or hasn't done. I mean, who knows? But that was all good. Nice. So we went to the local game store. I should say massive thanks to Sam and Tom for serving us there. I love those guys. We should definitely get Sam on the podcast at some point because if anybody knows about the kind of the business side of selling expensive cardboard, it's definitely Sam. Yeah. so massive thanks to them.
Okay, so that was picking up the cards at the local shop. There wasn't an event there. Many shops and game cafes are doing Lorcana events, official events that you can go to. There wasn't one there. Some people stayed in the shop and opened their decks and played with them for a little while. And that was pretty much it. You went home and played with Child?
I went home and did a full day's work.
Okay, so you went home and did a full day's work and then opened your...
Just in case my boss is listening, I definitely didn't open any of the product.
Okay.
Until maybe my lunch break.
I appreciate the clarity.
Right. And then the next day, we went to a tournament.
Yeah, you drove, you came and picked me up a lot. Like had about an hour's drive, and you were allowed 2 hours for this 1 hour drive.
Well, I thought we'll get there.
Yeah,
we'll get a coffee.
Yeah,
we'll chill out. We'll meet the people running the event.
Yeah,
we'll have a chat. Maybe we'll do some recording. That would be good because we got a podcast to record. So I thought maybe we'll do some recording. But no, yesterday was a friendly rugby match between Wales and another country.
I don't know which country.
I literally couldn't tell you because I'm a geek.
So we were stuck in traffic. We were stuck in lots of traffic, and you were like, "We'll find the way. We'll go the distance."
Okay.
Yeah.
David with his Disney quotes, and But to be honest, I was pretty stressed in the car. But we got there. We found a car parking space. We ran across Cardiff.
So Verity, who's been on an episode once in the past, who's my sister, joined us there, and she was there earlier, and she was like, she held our place because we didn't know we were going to make it in time, but thankfully we just about did.
Yeah. So we got to Geek Retreat in Cardiff, and I first want to just say a massive thanks to Rose who ran the event. It was all run really smoothly.
Was really, really good, yeah.
Everybody knew what we were doing all the time, and it's quite a nice venue. It's in one of the little arcades there, and it's a basement where you're playing, and you might think, oh, but it's really light. It's really colourful. They got stock all around, and it was a great place for
I love the
tournament.
yellow tables. I would never thought that would be a sentence that I would say in my life. I really like playing on yellow tables. It just makes, I don't know, it made I didn't have a playmat, and it was just really easy to see the cards on a yellow table.
Yeah, it's just really bright and colourful in there. Mm-hmm. I think that's a Geek Retreat thing. I think if you go to there are loads of Geek Retreats around the UK. Yeah. If you go to any of them, it's all the same colour scheme. But yeah, Rose did a great job, so thanks. How was the event for you? Run me through your tournament.
My tournament. So you had pre-ordered decks for the four of us, me, you, Child, and Verity.
Uh-huh.
And then you'd been playtesting them the day before, and you were like, green and red, not so good.
Well,
it's a bit slow. It's not the best one. Yeah. You told me it's not, of all of them, because you played all three of them, and you said that's not the one to have. And in our pre-order, we had pre-ordered 2 of the green and red. So I ended up with a green and red deck. So I was like,
hey, I gave you the choice. I gave you the choice.
Yeah, and I hadn't yet got a green and red deck, and you get to keep the deck. So I was like, this is a good choice for me, and I'll see how I do in the tournament. So it was like, is it called round robin, where you just play different people? What's the format called?
It's called a Swiss tournament.
Swiss tournament. So you play, not everybody, you play 3 or 4 people. We played 3 opponents, and then it ranks. So each time it's ranked you based on your previous results. Uh-huh. So you're ranking, and then you're paired it with someone at the similar ranking to see who wins, and then that.
Exactly. So if you haven't played a Swiss tournament before, the easiest way to think about it is if you win your first game, you will play somebody who has also won their first game.
If you win your second game, you won the first game, you'll play someone who won both of their first 2 games. Yeah, and so on.
Kind of separates the table so that it gets, if you're winning, the tournament gets harder as it goes on, and if you're losing, the tournament gets easier if you go. Yeah. That's the whole idea of it. It's a really nice way of doing casual tournaments, and it just means that everybody gets a lot of games in, and also get games in that they've got a chance to win, that they're not sat against, paired against the top of cut of players. Yeah. I find that kind of thing really fun.
So how I found it was really fun. I enjoyed the deck building aspect of it. So there's a booster inside each starter deck.
Yeah.
And so ever since Lorcana's run starter deck tournaments, I'm saying ever since, they started doing it about 2 weeks ago at Gen Con, but the ones I've heard about, you always have the opportunity to take some cards out of that deck, the ones that out of the booster that match the colour of your deck. So I could take the red and green cards out of my booster. There were other colours in there, but those ones, and put it in my deck. I'm not the best at card evaluation yet for your Lorcana, but I was like, I still found it fun, and I could work out what could be taken out that's not so good and put in some better stuff. Not that it's going to make a massive difference, because that was like 3 or 4 cards in a 60-card deck. So it was possible that even those ones wouldn't have shown up.
So so the rules that we were playing was that the cards from your booster pack that you put in had to match the color of your deck.
That's not always the case. Yeah. Is it? Okay.
Some people have been playing. You can put in whichever ones you have, whichever ones you like.
I prefer the rule where you have to match.
I mean,
it seems a bit much to.
Yes, but it would be really disappointing to open an absolute bomb of a card, an amazing card
that doesn't match
that just doesn't match the colors, and go, oh, that would be disappointing. So I think it's to avoid that kind of feel bad. That said, it made for a nice introduction that anybody could do it. The child sat there with his cards, picked out the ones that were the same color, and swapped them out for different things. And it's super approachable for anybody. It also means that if you open a character that you really like, you can put another one in your deck and that kind of thing. Yeah. No, that was a lot of fun.
So I had the red and green deck. I was expecting to do not well because of what you told me.
Okay.
And then I won the first game against an amber amethyst deck.
Nice.
So I'm saying red and green. What is that? Ruby and emerald. I had the ruby and emerald deck.
Yeah.
And so then I played the second game, and that was against another ruby emerald deck, and I won that round too. So I was like, I've won both first rounds. We're into the final round. If I win this, I'm probably first or second in the rankings.
Yeah.
So it felt really tense. And it's the best of 3.
Yeah.
My opponent won the first game. I won the second game. We got on to the third game, and my opponent won. So I came fourth. But I was really proud of myself based on the deck. And there were a few cards that I loved. And in that deck, one of them was Pongo. I don't think it's going to be like a
Pongo
barnstorming card. But for that deck, it's a common card, but it's evasive, which means it can't easily be challenged by other cards. And if you exhaust it or exert it, you get 2 lore when you go on a quest.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to get rid of, and you're putting a clock on the game of I'm getting quite a lot of lore every turn just from this one card.
Yeah.
So that did a lot. That did really well for me. The absolute bomb of a card was Mad Hatter.
Yes,
You can
so
quest
good.
for 3 lore with Mad Hatter.
Uh-huh.
It's got 4 toughness, which seems that once you get to 4 toughness, you're getting a lot harder to get rid of because none of the damage-based removal, like fire the cannons, can deal with 4 toughness.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get rid of So there's lots of ways of getting rid of cards on the other side, on your opponent's boards. But a lot of them do 2 or 3 damage, or you can challenge them with your own characters.
I'm saying toughness. I should say willpower. That's the technical
willpower.
term for the strength of that.
Yeah, because they're not. It's not that they're tough enough. It's just that they don't have the will to continue. That's a nice little lore thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in Constructed, in the people who've been playing online, Pongo is a staple of the red decks.
Oh wow! So Pongo's good. Okay, and then Tinkerbell is the same in green. So she also costs 4. Has the same stats. Has the same lore. Is evasive. And also has another ability. So Tinkerbell's really nice too.
Yeah, but in green, you see, and obviously, if you're in a red-green deck, sure.
You want both of them.
You want both of them. But because each of the colours do a slightly different thing, green is probably more about disruption. So I think we'll probably see more Pongos in the future than we will of that green Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
Simply because...
Green Tinkerbell's going in my green deck because I love Tinkerbell.
Oh, yeah, no, that's great, yeah. But simply because that deck's probably doing a slightly different thing.
Yeah, so the Mad Hatter, you can exert him for 3 lore. He's got 4 toughness. And when someone challenges him, you as the player controlling the Mad Hatter get to draw a card. And typically, there's not many cards that can challenge that can deal with 4 willpower in one challenge. So you're going to get probably 2 cards.
Definitely, yeah.
And card draw at the minute is really hard to come by, especially in these starter decks. So it's a really, really powerful card because it's got to be dealt with because exerting for 3 lore, going on a quest for 3 lore, is really, really powerful. You're speeding through the game.
Definitely, yeah.
So your opponent has got to deal with it. And when they do, they're giving you cards in your hand. And I think a lot of, especially new players to trading card games, underrate the resource of having more cards in your hands. It's like the main thing that you need.
I think people think, I get to draw a card every turn.
Yeah.
So that's fine. But if you think that most turns you want to be playing at least 2 cards.
You want to play an ink and a character.
Ink a card and you want to play a character or an action, then that's really difficult. That's maths doesn't work out if you're just drawing 1 a turn.
Yeah.
So I think, there's still because early on when we were looking at cards, it was like, we need more card draw, more card draw. Now playing the decks again, the only deck that doesn't struggle for card draw of the starter decks is the Amber and Amethyst deck. All of the other ones really struggle. I was top decking, meaning I was just empty-handed,
drawing the top
card on my deck each turn at the end of most of my games.
Yeah.
And it wasn't terrible because there are ways of mitigating that, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but it would have felt better if I was able to draw more cards.
I think I know where you're going to go with the mitigation, because I was going to say, you just said you want to play an ink and a character or another card every turn. I'm not sure you do, but I'll give that over to you.
Let me tell you about how my tournament went. We've already explained the format. My first opponent...
What colour deck were you playing?
So I was playing the blue and grey. I'm sorry, I'm not good.
Sapphire and Steel.
Sapphire, is that blue? Yeah, great.
It's Simba and Aurora are the headline characters.
Yes, so the headline characters were Simba, definitely Simba, and Aurora was also in there. But yeah, she did all right. But
Aurora was devastating when I played against her.
oh, was she? Maybe
For
I
me.
just didn't play her well. Yeah,
Especially
Simba
the
came out.
There's lots of
often.
Auroras, but one of them was like, "Oh, no, stop doing that, please. That's just really annoying. Please."
Brilliant. Yeah, so my first opponent had turned up. She had this amazing playmat with loads of a custom printed Disney Princess playmat with custom printed lore tracker going around the outside of the playmat.
One, please, now.
It was amazing. It was really good, and so that was super fun. She was playing Amethyst and Amber, and I won.
Congrats.
The second game I played against another opponent playing the same deck, and I also won both games. So I went.
So we were in the same
2-0,
position in
2-0.
our final game. We're like, if we win this, we're first or second.
Yeah, definitely. Third game, again, exactly as you did. It was, we had one apiece. Now, my opponent, it was a mirror match. So my opponent was also playing Sapphire and Steel. So it was a mirror match. And we were both relatively experienced card gamers. So we kind of both realized this is just a race. The thing that deck is good at, Sapphire and Steel, is the starter deck is
fast.
the fastest deck. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I really struggled. That my final opponent was playing that deck, and I struggled to deal with it with the Ruby Emerald deck. Like the fact that I won the second game of R3, I take quite a lot of pride in because it was really close.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
really hard to deal with that deck.
I ran away with the first game of the final round. My opponent ran away with the second game of the final round, and there we were. Both on one
On your race.
and it was like we got to race this, and I was so happy because he got to 11 lore straight away, so we're racing to 20 lore. He gets to 11
Someone's
straight
getting
away.
11. Where were you when he was on 11? Someone's
4
on
or
that.
5.
Oh yeah, you're like that feels like you've lost the game if you're there. That does.
And
if
you know what?
Come back from that. That's like whoa.
With a starter deck, that felt like I'd lost, and I
Yeah.
just drew a load of removal.
Yeah.
So I could take out his characters, which I managed to do, and managed to just turn the tide just quick enough to get to 20 before,
Nice.
and he would have tapped out for 20 the next.
Yeah, yeah. It could. To be fair, it could. If you build your own deck, it could be part of your game plan that your opponent rushes ahead and they're on 11, and then you know that by that point you were going to be able to stall them. But the
Yeah.
fact that you were able to do it with the starter decks really.
Now, something that Sapphire does really well
Yeah.
is put extra cards in the inkwell, so you've got extra resources.
That aren't coming from your hand. They're coming from
Yeah.
somewhere else. Yeah.
So I was relying on Sapphire's ability to put cards into the inkwell that weren't from my hand.
Can you give me an example of one
So
of those
I-
cards? Because they're really interesting
Definitely,
cards.
yeah. So the best example is Mickey,
Detective
the
Mickey.
Detective Mickey, costs 3, and when you play Detective Mickey, you just get to take the top deck of your, the top card from your deck. You can't look at it, you don't know what it is, and you put that in your inkwell.
So you get extra ink for free when you play Mickey.
Extra
It's
ink for free
really
for
nice.
to
Free
use that.
resources that you can then use for the rest of the game. That's really nice.
So I finished the game with 6 ink in my inkwell.
Yeah.
Not a lot because it had gone to turn 7 or 8 or 9 maybe. But I think I'd only put 4 into my hand. Whereas
four cards into your inkwell from your hand.
from my hand, exactly. Whereas my opponent, I think almost every turn had put
something
an
in the
into-
inkwell. Yeah.
So that's something I noticed. I think that gave me the slight advantage. The other thing that I've noticed gave me an advantage was that I was drawing a lot of low-cost cards, and I think almost always 2 cheaper cards is better. I say better. Is more useful, harder
To have
deal
out
with.
on the board.
Yeah, harder to deal with for your opponent than 1 higher cost card. So on turn 5, I played, or I think it was turn 4 because of the extra of the extra ink that I got. I played a 2 cost and a 3 cost card, and that's really hard to
But
deal
you've got to
with.
get them into your hand as well. That's the challenge of playing more cards. Is you need to have got those cards into your hand.
Of course,
somehow.
yeah. Whereas my opponent was playing higher cost things, which obviously just drew them. I mean, it's a starter deck challenge. This isn't a slight on my opponent
deck
whatsoever.
building, yeah.
But how that game worked out, he had more higher cost things. Now I can challenge 2 cards. 2 cheaper cards can challenge a 1 higher cost card, but 1 higher cost card can only challenge one lower cost card.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be able to remove two things in one turn. Or, I say
It might
never.
remove both of your things, though, if you both challenge.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, but that's my decision then, isn't
Yeah,
it? That's my decision. So I finished that game. Because of how Swiss tournaments work, I came second.
So you won that final game.
I won the final game. I went undefeated in games, as in in the individual games. I dropped one to my last opponent, but I went undefeated. But because of how Swiss tournaments work, the player that had played against you came first because his strength of schedule. So the other opponents he had played, including yourself, the opponents he had played were stronger than the opponents I had played.
Yeah.
Which is just how that works, which is great. So that was super fun.
Yeah, so it's a choice. To summarize what you were saying, it's an interesting choice of whether you put cards into the inkwell from your hand or not. Because when you put them into the inkwell, then you've got more resources to spend to put cards out. But if they're in your hand, you've got more choices about what you could play.
Yeah.
And for me, playing the Ruby Emerald deck, I found that once you had 5 ink in your inkwell, I was probably not wanting to put any more in there.
You're totally right.
Because the other cards that I might want to play were at most the cost of 6. So you might say, well, if that costs 6, why don't you want 6 in your inkwell? The reason for that is because if you draw a card that costs 6, you can then put another ink in your inkwell to play that card if you really want to play it. That was my thinking.
Oh,
so
definitely.
You're still getting the choices. I mean, there were times I was like, I wish I had 6 because I've just played a 4 cost and I'd like to get a 2 cost out. But equally, I preferred to have the choices in my hand. That was my preferred way of playing in general.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how many 7 and 8 cost cards we'll see in competitive decks. I'm really
unless they have the shift mechanic and the deck is built around that shift mechanic.
Yeah, unless it can really, or they're playing in Sapphire and the blue cards, which will put loads more ink into your inkwell. I'm really not sure how many of those like really expensive, in ink terms, cards we'll see. Just because the format at the moment seems pretty fast.
Even though they're what we would call bomb cards, so some of these like 8 cost cards could win you the game quite quickly.
Oh, incredible! Yeah, definitely. But
you just wouldn't see them in the deck because you're not going to get to a point where they can win you the game, or if you've got to that point, you've already won the game. Almost.
Yeah, I think that's more of it. Have you got to a place where you are comfortably playing cards with 8 ink in your inkwell?
So Maui's 8 ink.
Yeah,
he's really hard to get rid of because I think he's got 8 toughness.
Yeah,
8 willpower. And you can exert him for 3 lore, so you get to turn 7 or 8, depending on how you've got ink into your inkwell. You play, put him out. You can't even exert him for lore until the next turn.
No.
And if you do, that's probably going to be you're on 15, 16 ink, so it's going to be the one that's getting you to the end. It's not going to be like the Mad Hatter that costs 5. And is really pushing you up from about 5 or 6 to the end of the game quite quickly.
Yeah, but you know what also gives you 3 ink? Any 2 other cards. Do you know what I mean? There are so many ways of getting 3 ink that I don't think Mao is going to be the one that makes it. Okay, I had a lot of fun. I had so much fun at the tournament.
I loved it.
I think going into the tournament, I was really apprehensive about, is there enough of a game here? Yeah. Because there's only 204 cards out at the moment. Is it enough of a game for me to really engage with the tactical decisions? And I really did, especially that last game. And thanks to my opponent, if you're listening, it was an amazing three rounds for that. It was really good. And if I
can comment on something you said to me about it before, not just is there enough of a game here, but other starter decks built in an interesting enough way to make it an interesting game to play. And that is a question because they're not the most powerful decks that you could build with the set of cards that are available.
No, they're not. No.
But they are really, really fun to play.
Yeah,
really
they're fun, and I think they're also a great way of teaching people. I think a lot of people, that's the purpose of it. The designers have understood, well, people aren't going to have fun if they can't learn the game. Yeah. So here's a good way of them learning the game. And it also makes for relatively easy decisions when upgrading. So I haven't opened many packs, but I've opened quite a few packs with the child, and we've swapped out cards to upgrade our decks and played them again. And it makes it really easy to know, okay, which one of these am I getting rid of? Yeah. Well, it's the cards that don't really do anything. It's the cards with, it's nice to have that character on a card, But they haven't got any additional abilities. They don't
Yeah.
fit in the deck. They don't do the things that you want to do. They don't draw cards. They don't make extra ink. I also wanted to just on the back of the tournament, I wanted to give a couple of rules clarifications.
I found myself going up to the desk a lot to ask for rules clarifications at the tournament.
So I just wanted to say, so at the moment there isn't an exhaustive, here are the rules of Lorcana in great detail. I'm sure the designers have this. They haven't released it yet. They've released a quick start guide, I think because they want to encourage people to just jump in and play without worrying too much.
Yeah. But to be fair, the quick start guide is really clear. And at least one of the rules that you're going to clarify, when I looked at the quick start guide, because we discussed this, the answer is really clear to me from the quick start guide, actually, to the rule.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we'll cover it in a sec, but yeah.
So
what rules did you want to clarify?
Recently, there was a Q&A that the game designers did on Twitter, and it's not easily searchable, though, because it's literally just some random tweets from people to the Lorcana account, and then they reply. So not that useful. It would have been better if that Q&A had then been turned into a document, I thought. But somebody did it. So
Somebody has turned it into a document, so we'll link it in the show notes.
The lovely people over at thegamer.com have turned it into a webpage. It's very searchable, and it's worded in such a way that makes everything really clear. The first question that a lot of people had was
I had this question in my first game.
Ah, good. Yeah, was about shifting a character. So
what is shifting, Simeon?
Shifting is when you play a cheap character, so maybe a character that only costs 2 ink.
Like Aladdin.
Like Aladdin,
example.
yeah. And then there's a more expensive Aladdin.
That does better and more interesting things, and you really want to get the more expensive Aladdin out. Yeah,
okay. So you pay a reduced cost. So Aladdin, I think, costs 7.
The shift Aladdin costs 7 if you just pay the standard cost.
Play. So you can play Aladdin for 7 ink. Or
Which also means that you probably can't get it out until turn 7 if you do it that way. So it delays getting that powerful card out,
Or you can play it on top of cheaper Aladdin.
It costs 2 or 3. There's other Aladdins that cost 2 and 3. Yeah.
And if you play it on top of a different Aladdin, then it's got a cost reduction. I think it's 5.
Shift 5, yeah. So you can get it out on turn 5 then,
Yeah. So the benefit of this is also that when you play the card on top of the other card, it is that you can then use it straight away. So if that Aladdin could have either quested or challenged, if the Aladdin that you're playing...
The better Aladdin can do that.
The better Aladdin can do that and can do it better.
Yeah. Whereas normally when you play a card, you can't use it that turn.
Yeah, you can't use it the turn you play
Which is where a lot of these rules clarifications come from, the later ones as well. So that's one of the questions I had was like, can you use the shifted character that you just played, or do you have to wait a turn?
Yeah.
And you've just clarified that, yes.
So you can
use it right
use it
away.
straight away.
Yeah.
I think most of the questions was about what happens when those cards leave play.
When the shifted character leaves play. Because when you shift, you put it literally on top, physically on top of the other
on top of the other card. And when they leave play, then both cards, or however many is in the stack, because I think we'll probably see...
It could happen that there's
multiple
more in the
stacks
future.
to shift. Well, they've worded it in the way in their response that makes me think, there might be like mega shift. I don't know. The whole stack goes. So if it's bounced into your hand,
go back to your hand. If it's returned to your hand,
if it's returned to your hand, if they're banished, both Aladdins go to your discard pile. If they're put in the inkwell, both Aladdins go into the inkwell.
Oh, I like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's
like a lot of ink, 2 ink in one turn.
Yeah.
If there's a way to do that, you want to do it, don't you?
Well,
if Aladdin's a bit damaged, he's about to disappear anyway. There's a way to get it in the inkwell. Wow. I don't know that there is a way to do that at the minute, but I can see that.
Well, you could challenge someone else's character knowing I want the ink for next turn.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's a way to do that in the current set.
Oh, yeah, no. To get your own thing. Yes, there is a way to get
your own stuff into the inkwell. Okay.
Yeah, there's a blue card that does that. Anyway, I'm just going to read the actual clarification because I think it's important to be precise here.
Yeah.
But the way that I like to think of it is that in play, those 2 cards become 1 card. As soon as they move into a different zone, so in your hand, they go back to being 2 cards.
In your discard pile.
Discard pile, they go back to being 2 cards. If you can get something out of your discard pile, which a lot of cards do, you can get
You get one of them, you
one
don't
of
get
them,
both
you
of
don't
them.
get
Yeah.
both of them, and if they go into your inkwell, likewise they become
Get 2 ink.
2 ink. So here's the text as it says on the gamer.com website, which was taken from the Twitter conversation. You can play a shift character normally by playing its ink cost and putting it into play. You can choose to pay its shift cost to play it on top of one of your characters that has the same name. The character is completely covered by the shift character, and its abilities and numbers are no longer in effect. Any states the previous character had do carry over. If the old character was exerted, so is the shift character, and any damage the old character had remains on the shift character. Also, if the old character could have quested or challenged, the shift character can do as well.
Okay.
That was my clarification on shift. Sorry, it was really long. But if you're playing the starter decks, there are quite a few shift cards in the starter decks.
It's probably the most complicated mechanic in terms of rules questions that there is in the current.
You know what? So in Magic the Gathering, the other game we were talking about, there is a version of shift called Mutate. I don't know how that works in Magic the Gathering. I feel like I know the rules pretty well of Magic the Gathering, and there's so many times I've got questions about that. So, yeah, having cards play on top of other cards in any card game is going to create some questions.
Yeah.
But it's a fun mechanic. I like it.
I really enjoyed shift.
Yeah,
It won me the game once.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, it's a powerful mechanic. The second thing I just wanted to clarify is singing songs. So some actions, instead of paying their cost to play them, you can turn a character of equal cost, equal or higher.
Exert the character, yeah.
Yep. You can exert those characters.
So Hakuna Matata is a song that costs 4.
Yep, and you could turn...
Exert any character that costs 4 or more to play Hakuna Matata rather than paying 4 ink.
Yes. So the benefit of that is obviously you've then got the ink to play other cards.
Stuff, yeah. Nice.
However, just a clarification, if you want a character to sing a song, it has to have been on the in play since the beginning of your turn.
Yeah.
So you can't play a 4-cost character and exert it immediately to play Hakuna Matata. You have to wait until your next turn. And there was a lot of questions about this because the sing ability is on the song card rather than on the character card. A lot of people were like, oh, well, it's this card doing it, not the other
thing that
one.
happens in trading card games. But to me, the rules are really clear in the quick start guide.
Oh,
you can't exert a character for any reason the turn it comes out. That's it. You can't do anything that requires it to be exerted, and that's really clear to me. But maybe other people, that's not clear.
I think in a lot of other trading card games that cards can't exert themselves.
Yeah,
but
they are exerting themselves to sing the song. The song isn't exerting them; they are exerting themselves to sing the song.
Okay, but the point I'm making is in Magic the Gathering and in other in a lot of other card games, if there was an action card that was doing it, then it would have been able to do that. So I think that's where the confusion. And I honestly think that the people who were confused with that in the tournament,
Magic the Gathering, and
no, I think that was an honest mistake that they were making. They weren't rules lawyering. I think that was an honest mistake when it comes to the rules.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, those are the two things I wanted to clarify. Was there anything else that you thought that needed clarifying from the rules from your tournament play?
Just trying to. No, it was around shift. Everything was around the shift mechanic. Yeah, because it's especially as I was playing the emerald color, which returns a lot of the stuff in emerald returns things to your hand.
Yes,
and so I just had so many questions around that because. Yeah, one thing I like is what you discover the more you play trading card games, and like returning to hand, Mother Knows Best returns a card to a player's hand. My instinct, if I read that card, is I can get rid of my opponent's cards and get them back to their hand. But actually, it's quite interesting, especially with the shift mechanic.
Yeah.
If my shifted Aladdin, so that's what I had the shifted Aladdin. You really want to challenge with that Aladdin.
Yes.
Because it does good stuff when you challenge. So you're going to get damage.
Yeah.
So my part of my strategy was, well, if I can get this back to my hand and then bring it out again without damage, it's going to do all that good stuff again.
Definitely.
So the Mother Knows Best card was a really good card if I wanted to deal with a difficult thing my opponent was doing, or for me to reuse that really powerful Aladdin. It had double use.
Yeah, and also I think this is particularly relevant when we're just starting out, when we're just starting with these starter decks. I think a lot of people are going to be buying the starter decks, maybe upgrading them slowly, discovering their own little interactions, discovering what they want to do themselves. And in that kind of game, I think most people are going to run out of cards before they run out of ink. So a lot of times people might be empty-handed.
Yeah, that's another reason to return stuff to your hand, because you can replay it and you've got more choices in your hand again.
Yeah. If I've got a damaged Aladdin, I can return that to my hand because I've got all the ink in the world in most of these games.
Yeah, and when it returns to your hand, you lose the damage. That's just to be clear on that.
Yeah,
that
it loses
exactly
that. The damage is gone, and you can replay it, and it's brand new and fresh and sparkly and shiny if you got the shiny one, and not shiny if you didn't. Never mind. Okay, great. Did you know?
I did.
That the child has reviewed the starter decks for us.
This is exciting.
Okay, let's have a listen. It's the child. Hello, child. How are you doing today?
Good.
What have you been up to this weekend? What's happened? Not a lot, right?
Yesterday we went to a Lorcana tournament.
Amazing. And the day before?
We queued up for an hour to get our first Lorcana cards.
Did you have an amazing time?
Yes.
That's great. I also had a great time, and also I had a great time with you as well. I think the fact that you were there made that whole experience a lot better. So thanks for coming with us. Yeah, you're welcome. I am great. I've asked you to be the person who reviews the starter decks. You've played all 3 starter decks.
Yes.
So what did you play in the tournament yesterday?
The Moana and Mickey deck.
And how did you do in the tournament?
Very well.
Tell us how you ended up.
I ended up coming 6th out of 16 people.
And you were probably 10 years younger than the other youngest player there?
Maybe?
Yeah, I reckon so. So which has been your favourite deck that you've played?
Moana and Mickey.
Because you came 6th, was it? Or was there something else that was good about it?
And it's just quite fun to play.
Okay. And what's the best thing about that deck?
It's good at drawing lots of cards.
It is really good at drawing a lot of cards. And a lot of the decks really aren't good at drawing a lot of cards.
No.
Okay. And what would you say is the star card in that deck? What made it work for you?
Moana.
And am I right in thinking you opened another Moana in the pack in the deck?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So we added it to that deck.
Brilliant. Okay. What about the other 2 decks?
2 decks. So the Emerald and Ruby deck.
Green and red, yes.
Yeah. Were okay.
Okay.
Quite good at getting very early on.
Okay.
Getting rid of law.
Yes, they do punish your opponent and get rid of your opponent's law, don't they?
Yeah.
And what's the best card, would you say, in the red-green deck?
The Mad Hatter.
And why is that so good?
It's because whenever it's challenged, you draw a card.
Okay, but why would anyone want to challenge that card?
When you tap it, you get 3 law.
That is true. Yeah, that's a very powerful card. Okay, what about the last deck then? The last deck?
Steel and Sapphire deck.
You're so good at knowing all of the names for these things. I'm still like grey and blue, maybe. Okay, so the grey and blue deck, what's that good at?
Getting law quite fast.
I think that's the fastest deck. You're right. That's just out of the box. That goes super fast. And what's the best deck? What's the best card in that deck?
Maleficent.
Well, there's a couple of Maleficents in that deck. Which one is it?
Maleficent. Uninvited.
Uninvited. And why is that so good?
Because it taps for 3 and its defense is quite high.
Yeah, so its defense is 6, right? So that's really hard to get rid of. And it's tapping for 3 every turn. I found that to be a really consistent card. It doesn't do anything. It's got no special ability, no nothing. No. But just on the stat line alone, that's really difficult to deal with. Okay, so your favourite deck, you said, is the
Moana and Mickey.
Great, but if someone was going to a tournament like you went to and they wanted to win, what deck would you recommend they got?
Steel, Sapphire.
Is it just because it's so fast?
Very fast, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for that. What I'll do now is I'll talk to David about it and see whether he agrees with you or not.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye.
That was a great review.
I think he nailed it. Do you agree with that stuff?
I haven't played. So, for clarity, I played the Ruby Emerald deck in a tournament. I played it a lot. I probably played 8-9 games with it. Yeah, I agree with him on that one. The Steel Amethyst? No, not Steel Amethyst. Steel Sapphire deck.
Yes.
I played that against Moana.
Yeah.
Moana is 6 years old. We don't use card abilities. We just use the stats.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I would say the 8+ rating is right on the game. Like there's a lot of games that Moana can play that say 8+ or 10+. She's really savvy with games. But this was a little bit of a stretch for her. So I've only played it in that context. Yeah, but having played against it, I agree. It's really fast. Really hard to deal with.
Really fast.
I've not played the Mickey Moana deck at all. I played against it. It's fun to play against.
Yeah, I've played against it an awful lot at the... Well, yeah, so 4
you
of the games.
You played with it, didn't you? Or no, you didn't. You played the Steel Sapphire deck.
Yeah. And I was so jealous of people drawing so many cards. So
it has a lot of good card drawing there, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also got a lot of fun mini games. So I'd say that's one of the... Like, if you're not looking to win necessarily, but you are looking for something fun to play, just straight out of the box... firstly, you'll draw a lot of cards and you'll see a lot of characters. That's brilliant.
Yeah, Moana is her own minigame, and Mickey is his own minigame.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's when you do the Moana thing of the princesses thing, that feels good.
So Moana lets princesses do 2 things in a turn because they can go on a quest and then they can challenge as well.
Or they can go on a quest and then not challenge and be protected.
And then they're not able... so, there's lots of good things with
Which is how I saw that played most. And then the Mickey with the brooms, kind of messing around with...
Keep coming back to your hand like they do Multiply in Fantasia. Yeah, that's really cool.
But that's also got the really expensive Dr. Facilia. I hope I'm saying his name right.
Expensive in ink cost.
Yeah. So it's got the 7 cost, but it shifts for 5.
I didn't see that one in play. What does that one do? Do you remember?
No idea. I saw a lot of people play it, and then I won, so they didn't get to use it. However, sorry, that wasn't but people were super chuffed to get that out. People seemed like, oh yeah, I've finally done the thing. And that's another fun mini game to go, okay, I'm going to need to draw the 2 cost version of the card to play the 7 cost on top of it.
If anyone's listened to season 1 of We Don't Talk About Uno, they'll know that I'm really excited to play Sorcerer Mickey. And you've given me 2 Sorcerer Mickey prizes, presents, whatever we call them already, gifts already. You've given me a Lego Sorcerer Mickey and a pinball Sorcerer Mickey from Disney. Is it Disneyland, Disney World? Euro Disney?
Disney Paris. Yeah.
Disney Paris. So it seems a bit weird that it's because that's the deck that Moana chose because it has Moana. So so that's her deck. So I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I will.
Nice. Did you know we've had a listener question?
Oh, I love listener questions. Please, if you're listening, send us a question. Where can people send us questions, Simeon?
If people want to contact us, they can find us on Twitter or whatever it's called now, at Lorcana Podcast. We're also on TikTok with the same username, at Lorcana Podcast, or they can email us at Lorcana Podcast. No, they can email us.
LorcanaPodcast@gmail.com.
LorcanaPodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, that is it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or, this is my favourite way to receive listener questions, leave us a review on one of your favourite apps, wherever you get your podcasts, and put your question in the review.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. That's cunning. Well done, David. Super cunning. Okay, this question comes all the way from Mexico. Family of 4, itching to get into the game now it's been released. Should we buy the 3 starter decks and double up on one of them? If so, which one? Or should we build from scratch?
Are you asking me to answer that first?
Well, what do you think?
Buy the starter decks. And if double up on one of them, I wouldn't double up on one of them. So for the cost of the 3rd starter deck, you could get 3 or 4 booster packs. That would be more fun way to spend that money, I think.
I think if you're new to the game, everybody needs a starter deck.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, especially because Lorcana can be played. I'm forgetting this. Lorcana can be played multiplayer. So a family of 4 can sit down, like you sit down and play Monopoly or Risk or whatever you might play as a family. Villainous if you're into your Disney. Yeah, everyone needs a starter deck.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it matters which one. Choose the fourth person who doesn't. Definitely get one of each. The fourth person who doesn't have one of each, let them choose.
Here's what I say to everybody when they get into a game, because I get asked this an awful lot. Oh, I'm getting into Magic the Gathering. What deck should I buy? Don't buy a good deck. Buy a deck that excites you to play. And if everybody wants to play the Mickey and Moana deck, for example, you're going to have more fun.
You might even say, get 4 Mickey and Moana decks.
Well, no, I wouldn't say get the 4. Get the one that excites each player.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say is if you're a family and you're playing this like a board game, where you might buy some packs and upgrade the decks a bit, but you're not going to be buying tons of booster packs. You're not going to be going online and looking for individual cards to put in your decks because you want, I need 3 extra ones of this card. If you're not going to have that and you're just playing it like any other board game, then what is a great way of playing? It could be that you end up with 4 very unique decks because you swap around the colours.
Yeah, and you trade as a family. You trade cards, like you say. I'll give you my red cards if you give me your emerald cards.
Yeah, and you could end up with 4 very distinct decks. So let's say you buy the 3 starters, and then you double up on the red and green deck.
And you're going to get 4 boosters in that, and so then you'll have use for all the cards in all of those boosters because. All 6 colours you'll have use for in your deck. So there'll be lots of upgrades that you can do just from those 4 boosters as well.
Yeah. But as I was saying, you buy 4, you double up on the red and green, so you've got 2 red and greens. If one player swaps their red cards with the steel cards from the person who's got the steel deck, and one player swaps it with the blue cards from that, all of a sudden you've got 4 distinct decks that play in different ways.
Does that work? Are there 30 of each colour in each deck? I don't know if it works perfectly, or you might have to tweak it a little bit.
But with the booster cards,
you can tweak it.
You could definitely find ways to do that and end up with 4 unique decks. I would say especially if you're not a seasoned player, and also if you don't. I mean, it would be very expensive to build 4 decks from booster packs.
Actually, I do have an answer. So if you're like, if the players are like, I like all decks equally, so you've got 1 of each. The one I would get if you're playing 4-player is Ruby Emerald, because that has lots of cards that are more powerful in multiplayer games compared to one-on-one games.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. That the red cards especially have a lot of things.
And the Ruby cards,
have a lot of things.
The Emerald cards.
Each opponent does this, so you're impacting a lot of things. Great. Well, thank you very much for that question. And great, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And as Simeon said at the start of the show, if you enjoy it and you want to support us, tell other people. Share our podcast and review us. Leave a question in your review.
Yeah, that would be great. So coming up in season 2, there's a few things that we want to do. David and I have talked about kind of doing some general kind of for brand new players of card games. Here's how card games
people
work.
who play board games but not trading card games.
Exactly, we'll do one of that. We want to rate the franchises. I want to know what the strongest franchise is. So we might do the film franchise tier list of power level and fun, maybe.
What do you give me an example of a tier of what we might rank, like Moana? So we look at Maui and Moana.
I want to know, are Moana cards, all of them, better than Sleeping Beauty cards? All of them? For my theme decks, what themes am I building? So we've got loads of ideas for season 2, and we'd love to have you along for the ride.
Yep, and if you've got ideas for what you'd like us to talk about, send them in. We can't promise we will, but we will take a look.
Lovely. All right, thanks, bye.
Cheers, bye-bye.